Joy, and I'm going to pose, if you saw the title of this video, I'm going to pose a question, and I'm going to ask everybody, please try, because I feel like I can already hear the comments, try to keep an open mind about this video and what I have to say about it and about cancel culture. And specifically, we're going to focus again on Shane Dawson. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go see my part 1 to this. There's a Shane Dawson video. I'll have links in the description. I'll have links up here somewhere. This video might be a little bit confusing if you don't, so make sure and go check that one out. As you guys know, I've come back to YouTube, and if you want to see my weight loss transformation and kind of like what's happened over the last couple years, then make sure and go to my update video too. You can see it there. And if you like this kind of content and you want to see more of this, make sure and subscribe. Hit notifications so you can see when I have videos come out. Like the videos, leave comments. Let me know what you think. The more the better. I'm curious what you guys think of the content. Share with people you think are like-minded. Also, quick side note, I have a new channel where I'm helping people with stimulus money and finance news and politics. Katie's Insight. Make sure and subscribe, hit notifications, so when stimulus money comes out, especially in your area, you'll be notified. You can apply first before it runs out. Okay, sorry, I know it's a little bit of an intro, but I kind of just want to get all that out of the way. Also, I know I'm kind of wearing a little bit of an old lady sweater, but I love this because it's rainbow and I love everything rainbow. I do. I adore rainbow colors. I got a few different rainbow-ish sweaters, so makes me happy. So, okay, I feel like I hear the downvotes of this video. I want to ask again, keep an open mind while you watch this, because anybody who follows me or who's known me, you know that typically I'm not just going to go with popular opinion. Even if it hurts me, I'm going to always try to look at as much as I can, right? Well, not always, but I will always try to look at different alternatives to a situation. And of course, as we know, Shane Dawson has been embattled in some controversy. While I think a lot of it is kind of crap and kind of BS, which I detail in the other video, I want to pose a different thought process to the argument on Shane. Now, I'll give you guys a quick overview. Over the last year, he and Jeffree Star were embroiled in some drama between James Charles. Apparently, they were kind of trying to cancel him. We don't really know how far Shane's involvement was in with that. Jeffree was. I guess Jeffree's kind of a problematic person. I don't really want to say anything to put anybody down, though. I really don't know much about Jeffree. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, I've never sat through a James Charles video or a Jeffree Star video. I've never seen them. I don't know what that is. In fact, when I heard him go, I think I heard a clip recently of, "Hey sisters," I was like, whoa. For some reason, I didn't match the voice to what the persona. And that's not me being negative. I just never seen these people. Obviously I don't do beauty. No disrespect to the beauty community, but the beauty community seems really dramatic and very, very toxic. And considering the type of content Shane does at this point, I could see why he was drawn to it to a certain extent. It also gave him good views, and he got to kind of segue into that world, and that seemed to be really fun for him, so more power to him. But it also brought about a lot of what I feel like is mindless, needless, unnecessary drama. I'm like, why do all these people at the top end up trying to have so many fights and destroy one another's businesses? Like, in my opinion is, I look at things this way. As long as you are good at what you're doing on YouTube and you have the personality and you can kind of draw people in, you're charismatic, you have something to say people find interesting or they like you for some reason, there's room for everybody. You know, that's why I really can't stand this cancel culture stuff. So I was really frustrated when Shane has had a lot of controversial content out there for years. In fact, anybody who has been in kind of the Shane Dawson or Jenna Marbles, type of fame where they've grown that much over the years, they probably had controversial content. And you might be thinking, well, why did they all have such awful content? I want to give some context. I did this in the other video, but I kind of want to lay this out a little bit more because it's going to drive my point home with the title of the video. So, a lot of the younger people do not understand a world that is not homophobic free. And I'm not saying we completely are, but what I would say is I feel like we're a lot more gay friendly, which is fantastic. And for the most part, it's more of a common sense logic that, yeah, LGBT people are people, right? Women are people, right? To the younger people, I want you to understand the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the aughts is what they call them, and even up into some of the 2010s, it was not looked at that way whatsoever. whatsoever. In fact, it was not safe to be LGBT. I remember growing up, there were about three people at my high school that I was one of the first people they came out to, because I was a very open, warm, friendly person with everybody. And it was something that they it took them a while to process and kept really hidden. I went to a school that, even though we have separation in church and state, there was no social media and we were way out in the boonies and you can kind of do what you want. And so we did have a lot of discrimination on religion and LGBT and all of those sort of things. And there was this narrative from people that you are evil and you're going to go to HELL. And I think that things like that, I don't think the kids growing up now can really understand or appreciate the battles our generation went through with certain things like that, or the battles that minorities and women have had to go through. They don't understand a world where it was common across the board for women to feel forced to be so thin they look like they're coming out of the Holocaust. And that was the standard. We had it pushed on us by our parents, our teachers, magazines. We didn't have YouTube back then. We had magazines, right? Media, television, radio. Women were constantly hypersexualized in a way that was so not safe. The extreme opposite of not safe. Please infer, because I'm afraid YouTube will demonetize me. I would say, unfortunately, unless you were you had that gene of being extremely rail thin. When I was in school, most of the young women I knew had eating issues. Please infer. Most. And it was just common. And what's really crazy is our parents and grandparents had some similar issues, but here's the kicker. A lot of my generation, we had those issues, but we couldn't lose weight. We always struggled with our weight and we didn't know why. That was a very big, prominent theme back then, and it was pushed on us. And we were told, you are not lovable. You are not beautiful. You are ugly. Nobody will date you. Nobody will love you. You are a lesser human being. These types of concepts, these kids can't fathom. They can't fathom that back then, if forced sexual activity happened to a woman of no fault of her own, please infer, the first thing that's asked is, what were you wearing? What did you do? How did you lead this person on? They don't understand the harsh, very unsafe realities that we grew up in, that women were just expected to not eat. That was expected of them. Now, why is that? This is where I get to the title of my video. I know Shane has done very controversial content and people are very upset by it. I do think it's somewhat hypocritical because the content's been out there forever, and it was just when the beauty community decided that they wanted to go after Shane, they decided to use it against him then. Well, why then? Why not before? You know, I always think it's interesting when people want to pull up somebody's past. I'm like, well, if the past has been there forever and people have known about this, why all of a sudden is it now an issue? Here's what I want to explain. Things were very harsh back then. Remember, we were kids. We got to roam freely. We got to come home. We all had keys where we came home, unlocked the doors, went in, spent an hour to 3 hours by yourself before parents came home. Most of this generation, and I'm not trying to put down generations, all generations are different, and this isn't any fault of their own. They've been very coddled. Most of them didn't have the freedoms we did. Most of them, we had to kind of grow up quickly. We had to kind of become adults quickly, and their generation had a kind of parenting that was very coddled. Again, I'm not trying to put people down. Every generation have their strengths. Every generation has their weaknesses. But I want to say where I think there's a very stark contrast to why people don't understand the humor of Shane Dawson. Some of the things he's done, I get it. It's not good. It's inexcusable. I get what you're saying. There's another layer to it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying I agree with it. It's especially not today it's not okay in today's climate. Here's what you have to understand. We grew up in such a harsh way, in a way that was so unsafe, that the kind of comedy that we all were drawn to was very extreme, very controversial, like South Park. I want to know why, if Shane is so horrible, why they have made fun of the subjects of children and adults being together, please infer. They've had several instances and episodes of that on South Park, and yet nobody petitions to try to cancel them. But we did for Shane. Why is that? And look, I get it. Some of the stuff was, I'm not saying I agree with the stuff. And even Shane has said he doesn't. I want to explain why it happened and why it was there and why there was kind of nothing off limits. Because back then, not a lot was off limits, guys. Yes, children and adults being together has always been wrong, but those boundaries were so blurred. Let me give you, for instance, I don't know how many of you remember Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen when they were little. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion of why they may have left acting. Now, I don't know this. I don't know them. I couldn't say this for certain, but I remember once they turned 12 and 13, our local radio DJs, like local radio stations in Kansas City, they'd have countdowns to when they're legal. And you would hear the disc jockeys, like openly, in grotesque detail, lusting after 12 and 13-year-old girls. Well, you know, when it comes to children and adults being together, the P word, that's 13 and under. I want you to understand that we had a system that was more tailored to that. I'm not kidding. Like, for instance, we had this craze with all of the pop stars back then, all of the girls. They got to come out and act like they're cute and innocent, and then right around 15 or 16, they all had to turn around and act like they were hypersexualized. And this was all forced upon them. Go look at Mandy Moore's Candy video. It's gross. She even says, I cringe. What was happening? What was I doing? She's uncomfortable with it. What they were doing to this girl who looks like she's 14, 15, 16. I want you to understand that the objectification of women and children was very common. So how did our generation respond to that? How did we respond to the extreme physical brutality of the LGBT and women and all of these different things? We had extreme controversial humor. That was the response. So if you remember back in the day, there were several creators that did this kind of content, and Shane Dawson was one of them. I want to give a little perspective on something. Not saying it's right, not saying it's okay. A big thing back then, if your parents, and I'm from the Midwest, so I know what I'm talking about here. If your parents thought or found out you were LGBT, was to do conversion therapy, which means they thought that certain elements or factors influenced you to be gay and they could force you to be ungay. So there's a video. I don't like the video. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm giving a different perspective. Where I guess Shane Dawson, there's a kid and Shane Dawson and people in the woods, and it's the title of the video is something like, "This will make you gay." And it's them dancing around, and I think there's nudity, and it's not a good video. It's not. And I can understand, I have no issue with people saying that's awful. And I have some of that reaction too. But why was that type of humor okay back then? Why did that type of humor exist? Because a lot of people say, there's nothing funny in that. How is that funny? Because we grew up in such a brutal way, our response, the counterculture to that, was a brutal form of humor. And the joke in that is lost on a lot of the younger generations now because of all the work that my generation has done to pave the way so they don't have to go through such harshness. The joke is, well, apparently there are things that will turn you gay. But it's not that you're just born that way, or this is just who you are, or how you feel you are to express yourself and your soul. That's the joke. The shock value of it, though, is the counterculture response to the negativity. Does that make sense? So a lot of this stuff you see from Shane, from other creators, that is just the response of a counterculture. And here's the other thing. Back then, so many things were kind of in society deemed passable or okay. Let me put it like this. R. Kelly. We knew in the 90s what he was doing to kids. It was kind of a running joke. Nobody cared. Nobody really cared. Why is that? Because as a society, even though there were certain rules and laws in place, there were things that on some level we found acceptable. And do you know why they're not acceptable now? Because people like me, like Jenna Marbles, like Shane Dawson, stepped up and paved a way that was kinder, better, more tolerant for the LGBT, for women, for children. That's why all of these videos from these people are in their past and they don't like them. They understand now, because it's a different culture, a different time, how problematic they could be. Then it was a way of shaking people and waking them up to things that were going on. The other thing is, Shane is a victim of being mistreated by adults in extreme ways himself. Please infer. It's YouTube. I don't want to get demonetized. As a result of that, as a result of the way that he grew up, the way that he had to grow up, he was very desensitized, and I don't think he understood the lines or boundaries of what was appropriate, also considering we had a society that was kind of okay with it. Does that mean we should cancel Shane and he shouldn't have a career? Look at how much good he's done for the world. Look at how much good Jenna Marbles has done and how people ran her off. I know there was controversial content. I get why people are upset by that. But if it wasn't for people like Shane coming out and people like Jenna Marbles speaking out on behalf of minorities, there would be less of a way paved. Shane, in going through his LGBT transformation and changing his content and going through that transformation, helped normalize LGBT culture and helped make a better world for everybody. So how long and how far do we have to hold people accountable for things and completely ignore all the good they've done and that they do? That's the whole point of this video, is to ask that question. I'm not saying the videos are good. I'm not saying I'm okay with the content. I'm saying we have to look at it in context of the time it was created. And the fact is, many of these people that are suddenly all being canceled, because I know I've been canceled for saying sarcastic things, and I get it. And I've said for a long time, I'm very sorry if I hurt anybody. It was never my intention. And I have tried to grow and try to change, and I think I have quite a bit. And I've tried to understand certain things and understand, appropriate joking and things. I get that. But how long do we just constantly try to nitpick everybody in a bullying fashion for attention, but we just neglect all the good they've done? That's what I wanted to ask. That's the question. I really wish when this was a hot topic, so to speak, I could have spoken out, but I was building another channel and didn't really want to do content like this. And I'm still really on the fence about how much of this type of content that I want to do. But sometimes there are things I think that I feel I want to say, and I think I'll speak up when I feel I need to. And if I need to dial back, I will. It's just going to kind of be a process for me to figure out. It just breaks my heart because I feel like I'm looking at good people who have tried to rectify anything they did in the past out of ignorance and out of a culture that accepted so much more, and people who've actually done and made a lot of positive change to pave a better way in our society for people to then go and persecute them and crucify them. I don't think it's fair, and I think most of this isn't as much that people really care. How do I put this? I think a lot of people, when it comes to Shane Dawson and Jenna Marbles, I personally don't think they super care about them and what they've done. I don't necessarily think they're that upset about minority issues. And by the way, and when I say that, I mean towards them. I'm sure that they champion that, and good, we need it. We need it. Things need to change. Things need to be more fair and better for minorities, women in this country. I'm all for that. So don't think I'm not. I'm all for that. But what I really think is we also have a culture that has decided when we can get attention from it, where it's okay to try to ruin somebody's life and try to paint this picture of the worst of them without seeing the picture as a whole. So what I want to do is give you the picture as a whole. Yes, these people aren't perfect, but it wasn't even that, oh, well, they made some crappy jokes and made mistakes. It was common then. It was okay. Do you know it wasn't common knowledge to know now that adults and children being together, that there was actual harm to that? Like, yes, there's some understanding and there are laws, but then why did people for so long get away with so much of that? Even look at the way with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. If you guys weren't alive for this, Monica Lewinsky was crucified, and she's a young girl in her early 20s, and this very powerful man is taking advantage of her, and it's her fault. You guys don't understand the type of culture we grew up in to not know what was appropriate. And as we learned, we grew. As we grew, we became better. We did better. We tried to do better for other people. And I just wish people would give that chance, that credibility to these people they're trying to cancel, because we have also now come into a different generation we didn't have before. Bullying is accepted if you can spin it in a certain narrative and you can take the attention. Because when we do this, what are we doing? We're attacking people to take the attention away from them and put it onto us, unless there's some very big reason for it. I could understand if Shane Dawson or Jenna Marbles current day was doing really horrible types of content. I would get it. It's in their past. And they've tried talking about it. They've tried getting rid of it. They've tried owning up. And just watching how awful people can be. I don't know. And I'm not excusing anything. I'm saying that you have to look at this in a sense of our generation. We were victims of our generation. We were victims of what the baby boomers, hi baby boomers, love ya. I'm not trying to blame you guys, because a lot of you paved the way for women's rights too. Like, we all have our strengths and weaknesses as generations, right? I want to make sure that's clear. I'm not trying to attack anybody, but the boomers allowed this type of behavior, so us as children didn't know any better. And guys, I'm 36. I'm still figuring this stuff out. It takes time, especially in my generation when you grew up and the lines were not clear on what was okay. That is why the content was so extreme. But why is it okay for South Park and not okay for YouTube creators? Because going after South Park is not going to get you YouTube views. It's not going to get you social media clout. That's what I think. And I just wanted to put this out there as kind of a counter thought to everything, and just to say that I think we can all be better and do better. And I just pray for that for everybody. And I just pray and send out peace and love to everybody. And I just want to be a voice of support and understanding. And I want to give an argument that I feel like we don't hear these arguments anywhere else. I feel like either people think like me and they're too scared to speak out. They don't know how to word it. There are several things going on there where with me, like, I've already had the worst said and done about me, and I've had the majority, not all of it, but vast majority is complete lies, manipulations, stretching the truth. What do I have to lose? My name's been dragged through the mud. What I want to keep intact is my integrity and my honesty as much as I can. And so I just felt really compelled to make another video and try to explain why the content back then was the way that it was. Why was it deemed acceptable? If it was so bad, why didn't YouTube remove it back then? Because this was common. Not saying it's right, but I'm saying it is what it is. And maybe we should give some thanks to the people, the big creators at the top, like Shane and Jenna, who tried to actually help change that so you guys could string them up. That's what I want to say. It also frustrates me because I feel like the really big issues in society that need to be changed, everybody is lazy about. It's so much easier and can get you clout to go after YouTubers and actually get off your butts and make the changes for women and for minorities. Now, some of you do. More power to the ones that do. But not enough, because if there were enough people, then we would have a different system. And we'd be taking big steps towards that. And that's what I hope and wish for everybody. Okay, scared of this video, but you know what? It's okay. I just want to speak my truth, and I want to give other perspectives. And I think forgiveness should be there, and we need to see that some of the people that we think are so horrible were actually victims to their society, and they're trying. It's one thing when they're not. They're trying, guys. They're really trying. Why kick somebody when they're down trying? If you're going to kick them when they're trying to be better, what's the point of them being better? What's the point of changing, the unfairness for women and minorities? Because when you finally get allies who see what's wrong and want to change it, and then all you do is degrade them and kick them and put them down, they're going to go the other way. Because I'll hear people say, well, it's not my responsibility to raise your consciousness. I understand how people feel that way, but if you want society to change, you got to pick one. Are you going to want to help make the change and help educate people? Or are you going to want to just berate people because you're angry because things haven't changed? You have every right to be angry. You have every right to be angry. Feel how you need to feel when things aren't fair. I get it. But we also have to look at, how do we create the world that we want? Are the actions we're doing creating the world we want, even if we are in a situation that's unfair? That's what I want to say. All right, I'm scared to say, let me know what you think in the comments, but sound off. Let me know if there's something I'm missing. And again, I'm not defending any negative actions. I'm not defending some of the stuff I've seen. I'm just giving a different understanding to people. That shocking humor, saying all kinds of things just for shock value, to make everybody laugh. Like, I grew up like that. I had a girlfriend where we said the most horrific, the worst words, the worst things to each other, all because we were just trying to make the other one laugh. And we did this in private. We did this with our friends. It was very common to do. If that's not a common practice now, I get it. That's not something I commonly do with friends now. I don't really need to. But like, you know, that's just a common thing. But this, you know, I'm just, again, bringing up different points of view. Okay, guys, if you like this kind of content, make sure and subscribe and hit notifications if you feel called to. I am very curious what you guys have to say, and I am nervous. Okay, guys, take care. Lots of love, lots of blessings. Till the next video, and I want you guys to know I am not trying to put anybody down. I really hope my intention has come through with this. My intention is really of love and of understanding and of trying to put a positive message out and give some information. I'm not trying to say anybody's wrong or put anybody down or you shouldn't feel this way. Feel however you need to feel. I'm just giving some other perspectives that I feel like you might not hear other places, and I just don't think we should crucify everybody for things that we don't fully understand when they're trying to change and be better. And you know what? Them changing and being better made the society better. They didn't have to do that. And I wish we could give some understanding to those people and not just berate them. Okay, guys, take care. Lots of love, blessings, and until the next time, I will see you later. And yeah, I'm really insecure in this video, but that's okay. So I'm sending hugs, mwah, and lots of kisses. Bye, guys.